Part of Joe Biden's platform, God forbid if this guy prevails, I don't think he will, but you just never know, right? Is going to be attacking your right to work. That's a big deal. Mark Mix is here. He's the National Right to Work Foundation president. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great, Heidi. How are you?
I'm concerned about the election. I know God's ultimately in charge, but we still have to be vigilant. And if Joe Biden pulls this out, this is really going to be an attack on employees' rights, even worse than we've already seen in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. The agenda of the Biden-Harris ticket and others that are promoting that ticket includes the repeal of all 27 right-to-work laws in the country, including Nevada's. And those laws are really very simple, Heidi, as you know. They simply protect your right to choose whether or not you want to join or financially support a labor union. You can do it if you want. You can join. Nothing stops you from doing that. But if you decide that you don't appreciate their politics or you don't appreciate the way the union's being run, you can hold them accountable by withholding your dues. And that's a really important attribute of accountability in the union movement. But the Biden-Harris ticket is interested not only in eliminating all the right-to-work laws, but radically changing the way unions are certified in this country, going to card-check elections as opposed to secret ballot elections. And Lord knows, these election results from the other day give us an indication of the electoral system being somewhat in confusion. But anyway, their agenda is not good for working men and women.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. We're speaking with National Right to Work Foundation President Mark Bix. That's really scary when they won't even let you vote by secret ballot in some of these elections. And we've certainly seen this happening with the Culinary Union here. And then the pressure and obviously on people. And that's just terrible.
Yeah, indeed. And, Nevada's kind of an interesting place. While the right-to-work law has been in effect out there for a while, the unions have a pretty powerful stick, but they're doing a job there. They're representing workers, and workers seem to agree, most of them anyway, with what they're doing. And so, it's interesting. Nevada's a right-to-work state, but they have a higher union density than states that don't have right-to-work laws. So this notion that somehow giving workers the right to choose whether or not they want to ideologically or financially support a labor union is not that bad, and Nevada's an interesting case study. But you're right. The Culinary Union is one that has used what we call sometimes pick-handle unionism, and that's a little bit of different breed of using some coercion and intimidation tactics. And Lord knows we've represented lots of folks out in Nevada, and we have a case out there right now that shows kind of this abuse that union officials use over workers that are just trying to exercise their rights.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We're speaking with Mark Mix. He's the National Right to Work Foundation president. You're talking about Las Vegas security guard Justin Stevens. Talk a little bit about that case. That's local here, obviously.
Yeah, Heidi. This is one of those great examples, and I don't mean great. I'm using finger quotes when I say great. It's one of those difficult examples of showing just how the deck is stacked against workers trying to exercise their rights. Justin is a security guard, and they are providers of security for North American Security, which is out in Las Vegas. And basically, they decided that the union was not doing a very good job. They followed the rules as to how to get rid of a union, how to decertify a union, how to basically tell the union they didn't want their representation anymore. And the day after the union found out that they were interested in throwing the union out, they negotiated and sealed a new contract with the employer that basically changed the way these workers could get out. Literally one day, without the workers even knowing about it, the workers got together. A majority of the workers said, we don't want to be in the union anymore. They all signed a petition. They sent the petition to the union. The union finds out that the workers are trying to get out. They immediately go to the employer. They negotiate a contract literally in one day that locks everybody back in, and that's what they're trying to do. So Justin called us. We provide free legal representation to workers across America. At any given time, we have about 250 to 260 active cases on behalf of employees where we're providing free legal aid to Justin and folks situated like him across the country. But this case is really interesting because once they decided to exercise, the union said, hey, we can't have that, and they tried to lock him in, and fortunately we were able to get a settlement for Justin and 23 other employees at the workplace to let them exercise at least some portion of their rights. But without legal help and without the kind of the precedents that we've established across the country and protecting labor policy and the rights of employees, this would have been a really sad story because they would have been locked in for another 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. We're speaking with Mark Mix. He's the president of the National Right to Work Foundation. And listen, my dad was a lifelong union member, and we're not bashing unions here in any way, but the fact We're talking about choice, the idea that somebody should have a choice as to whether they belong to a union or not, or whether they can decide as a group that they want to get rid of the union, because a lot of unions don't represent people well. I mean, look at all the people here in Vegas who are out of work, who are Culinary Union members. What are they doing for them? Nothing. I don't expect you to comment on that. I'm just, editorializing, because they're doing nothing for these people. Where's their, they're supposed to be so strong and protecting your jobs. They're not doing squat for them. And sometimes people just get disgusted and say, wait a minute, I'm going to go get a job non-union somewhere because at least I can get one. And that's the choice that people should have.
That's right, Heidi. I grew up in a union household. My stepfather was a 32-year member of the Machinist Union. He was a welder. And so, this notion that somehow holding union officials accountable is somehow anti-union is just ridiculous. I mean, think about the United Auto Workers Union members across the country. They've got a situation in their international union where 11 of their top executives either pled guilty or in jail for what the federal attorney up there said was racketeering and extortion and stealing union members' money. Don't you think those union members ought to have some accountability as opposed to being forced to pay fees to a union that's stealing their money as a condition of getting or keeping a job?
Right, that's true. And also, this has been an issue for a very long time, and a lot of union members, even if they feel as if the union folks are doing the right job, a lot of their union money is being donated to Democrat causes. If you're a Republican and you're a member of that union, you may not like that. I mean, my father was a lifelong member of the Musicians Union. You look at what they're doing now to people. They're cutting the pensions. They're demanding that the younger guys put in more money. I mean, they're changing all the things that these guys thought they were going to get as union musicians. So there's no guarantee of anything. So you join a union, you're a member of a union for a long time, and they just change it whenever they want to, and they're not held accountable.
Yeah, Heidi, and that's really one of the things that hasn't shaken out of this whole financial process yet, and that is the so-called promises that union officials made to rank-and-file workers, particularly in the government sector. I mean, these government employees in California and Illinois and New Jersey and New York, all of these promises of these pensions, I mean, that stuff is unsustainable unless the Biden-Harris ticket gets in and they print up another $4 or $5 trillion and paper over the mismanagement of those types of programs. In the private sector, you're right about that, too. The Teamsters Union, the Central States Teamster Fund is, I don't know, they're on the critical basis of being able to provide the most basic pension benefits for all those retirees. I mean, it's a really sad story, and it's only getting worse. And to your point, these people are forced into these associations, forced into paying fees as a condition of their employment, and then the next thing you know, when it's all said and done, when it boils out, there's nothing left there, and that's really, really unfortunate.
No, it's a disaster. I have a friend whose father was a pilot for an airline I won't mention for, 25, 30 years, planned to retire, and then the airline went bankrupt, and he got nothing. And,
they ended. It was amazing. They ended up. We had a couple of clients. We represented a couple of clients who were flying for an airline, and they had to go back over to Europe to work because they just could not. They couldn't survive on the quote promised pensions. It was really sad stories.
Right, and you can say, oh well, they should have saved. No. They were putting money in to get a pension. They were promised, for heaven's sake, and all of a sudden, boom, it's out the door. And you notice whenever people are out of work, whether it's here, whether it's anywhere in the country, you notice how the union leadership many times will tell them, strike. They never live without a paycheck. They just expect the rank and file to live without a paycheck. That's always been my aggravation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's a battle going on right now with the Firefighters Union, the International Firefighters Association. Harold Schaitberger, who is the longtime president of that, was taking a pension from the union while he was still working from the union. And of course, this all became public because one of his rivals was running against him in the election for presidency, and so it came out. And then Schaitberger's decided he's retiring now. But literally, the firefighters' pension is underwater, but the union officials' pension. Oh, but you're right, Heidi. It's really, it's very nice. It's floating nicely, and it's got all the funding it needs, and it's really, really unfortunate.
Funny how that works.
And the bottom line is, this: is that look, no one should be forced to join or pay dues to a union as a condition of getting or keep a job. If union officials just would simply go serve people, they might be able to sell their product.
Yeah, that's you know what? It's the truth. It's just I need a gig like that. That's I'm kidding. Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Foundation. Here's the website, guys: nrtw.org. That's nrtw.org. So if you've got a grievance or something, let them know. I appreciate you being here, Mark. I appreciate you fighting for people's rights because, listen, I don't hate unions. Nobody hates unions, but you just need to have some freedom and you need to be treated correctly. That's all we're asking.
Amen. Thank you, Heidi. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. I'm Heidi Harris.